Hi everyone. I'm just going to show you how to do some different calculations in Excel that should help you with assignment number 1. So first thing I'll show you is how to calculate an average. For the assignment, you'll be working with a data set that looks a little bit like this. And you may want to calculate, for example, the average trichome density of all the plants in the data set. So to calculate the average by hand, what you would do is add up all of these numbers here, and then divide by the number of numbers you want the average for. And you can do it a little quicker in Excel. So I'll show you 2 ways to do it. So one, we can type equals average. So you can see what I typed in here, just an equal sign, average. And then I'll type in an open bracket. And then what we can do is highlight all the numbers we want the average calculated for. So I'll just highlight all the numbers in this trichome density column here. So it fills it in here, so B2 to B19, the cell numbers. And then I can hit the close bracket and then push enter. So in this sample data set, average trichome density, so number of trichomes per centimeter squared, is about 9.8. An even quicker way to figure that out. So again, we'll just mouse over and highlight all the numbers we want the average for. And then if you look down here, it'll actually tell you some numbers. So here the average, 9.7. So average of the numbers I selected. Count is 18. So I selected 18 numbers. And the sum, if you add them up, you get 176. So an even quicker way to figure out the average. Some other things you will likely need to calculate using Excel are variance and standard deviation. So variance and standard deviations, those are measures of how spread out the values in a data set are. So if all the values are clustered around the mean, you're going to have a low variance and standard deviation. On the other hand, if your data is really spread out and there's a lot of values that are quite far from the mean, you're going to have a higher standard deviation and variance. So this is the formula for calculating the variance. So what we have here, this big sigma, so that means sum. Here, x with a bar on top of it, so that would be the mean or the average. And xi would be every individual data point. And then n would be number of values in the data set minus 1. So n for that sample data set would be 18. Mean would be 9.8. So to calculate the variance, what you would do is for every single value in the data set, you take the value, subtract the mean, and then square it. So you would have to do that 18 times. So each data point, subtract the mean, square it, and then you take those 18 values, add them up, and then divide it by 18 minus 1. And that would be your variance. Standard deviation is easy to calculate once you have the variance. You just take the square root of the variance. So you'll notice here that if most of the values are really close to the mean, this top number is going to be a lot smaller than if a lot of the values are far away from the mean. So to calculate the variance in Excel, again, you can use a simple formula. So for variance, we go equals VAR, and then close bracket, and again, highlight the numbers you want the variance calculated for. I'll highlight all those, close the bracket, and push enter. So the variance of our data set is 28.4. To calculate the standard deviation, so STDEV, open bracket, and we'll just highlight all of these values, close bracket, and enter. So our standard deviation is 5.3. And so you'll notice, so if you ever want to calculate a square root, so it just equals SQRT, open bracket. If we take the square root of the variance, So I'll just highlight our variance square, close bracket, enter, and that's the same as the standard deviation. Okay, so I'll just delete all that. A couple of very useful things you also can do in Excel. It'll be helpful for this assignment. You may want to sort the data. So for example, if we may want to sort the data so that the trichome density is arranged in ascending order. Okay, so to sort the data, pretty simple. So at the top here, we've got these options. So I've got the data highlighted, and I'll just click sort. This little box will come up. And notice that it's kind of assuming that the first row here is just the headers for the different columns, which is correct. So we can pick how we want the data to be sorted. Right now it's sorted by plant number that we gave the plants. Here we'll sort by trichome density. Sorted on cell values, so the numbers we got there, that's good. Order, so smallest to largest, that'll be fine. You can actually pick largest to smallest if you wanted to. So you can use this sort function to sort the data in the way that you like. So I'll click OK. And there, it's kind of rearranged our data so that rather than being arranged by plant number, it's arranged by trichome density. If you have a very large data set, this can help you quickly determine the range of values in a data set. So here we know from sorting it that our range of values for trichome density ranges from 0, so our hairless plant, up to 20, so 20 trichomes per centimeter squared. So that's how you can sort data, and that can be quite useful for a lot of things. So I'll just resort that to the way we had it, plant number. Another thing you can do with the data is filtering it. So if you only want to see data that meets a certain criterion, you can use the filter function. So for example, we may want to figure out what's the average trichome density of the plants that we used for breeding. So we can actually filter the data so that it only shows values from the plants used for breeding. So here I got a column used for breeding, no, so those would be the ones we didn't use, and yes would be the ones we used to produce seeds to grow the next generation. So again, to do that, we go to data up here, filter, and you can see that these little arrows appeared. So if you hit the arrows, it'll actually give you a menu that shows the different values in that column. So stem color, we've got green or purple. We could sort them by that if we wanted to. Here though, we want to see sort them by plants used for breeding. Okay, so I'll hit the arrow. So down here, I'll just unclick that. So we can sort them or filter them. So either plants used for breeding, no, or yes. So if I want to see data for plants used for breeding, so I'll just click yes. Click OK. And there, so we have the data filtered so that we only see the data from plants that we use to breed. And if we want to know the average trichome density in the plants we use for breeding, again, we can just select those, and we can see our average is 16.5 trichomes per square centimeter. So that's a lot higher than the average trichome density. So hopefully what we'll have is if we use these more hairy plants to breed, the next generation will have an even higher mean trichome density than in the first generation. We can also refilter the data so that only the plants not used for breeding are shown. So that's what I've done here. So again, we'll highlight trichome density. Average density is 7.85. So lower trichome density in the plants that we decided not to use for breeding. And note that this data is just some sample data I typed up, so our actual data may look a bit different from this, and you'll be working with a bigger data set. But just for those of you who maybe haven't worked with Excel or need a bit of refresher, I thought I'd just show you some of these functions that'll probably be very helpful as you do the first assignment. Okay, thank you, and I'll also put up a video on how to do a histogram. Thanks.